Currently, DICE is patching Battlefield 5 at a pretty insane rate based on previous experiences. 2 patches were deployed in January, and those did address some major issues with the game, most notably the company coin accrual issue, and very soon we're going to see the deployment of the February patch. Again, that's seeking to make some big gameplay changes and adjust some balance to improve the overall experience. Now, I've got the patch notes for this February update. I'm going to be highlighting everything I can in this video, but fair warning, I do have a very heavy cold right now, and I'm finding it quite difficult to talk properly, so if my voice goes weird, just don't rip me to shreds too hard down in the comments section. You get a free pass for this video. Let's start this video off with some video evidence of these changes. DICE devs revealed over the weekend some rather important gameplay changes and backed them up with video evidence showing them off. So first of all, Drunksy revealed that the frag grenade rifle in the assault class is getting a nerf. Now previously, the grenades fired from the rifle would explode on impact, making them extremely difficult to avoid if they came near you, and extremely easy to use. So DICE is changing this. When the update goes live, the grenades will now bounce if they hit a surface that's too close to where you fired it from. If you manage a direct hit on an enemy player, that will give a 30 damage indicator, and at longer ranges the grenade will still explode relatively quickly after impact, according to this change. That means the grenade rifle can no longer be used as a crutch to kill enemies at close range, which is a welcome change, I think. This doesn't affect the smoke grenade rifle in the medic class, that remains the same. Another improvement is further work being done to the vaulting and traversal systems in the game. These already got a massive improvement in the 2nd January patch a couple of weeks back, but DICE is doing even more work to improve the system, and that's having a knock-on effect on improving player pathing around maps as well. Traversal becomes more fluid, and friction over those more cluttered areas, I'm looking at you, Devastation, should be reduced. This video here shows a few examples that hadn't been addressed with the previous patch, but have now been rectified, which is great to see. Now, improvements like these are invaluable during gunfights and those tense gameplay moments. So while the fixes are shown in a near empty map environment with not much going on, you can expect basically the same improved experience in live matches when this patch drops. From the last patch, I've already experienced multiple small ledge grab animations, where I wouldn't have got one before that patch, so these changes DICE is making are really having an effect. Spawn beacons were heralded as a great return for Battlefield 5 before the game launched, but I can say with some confidence they aren't currently being used as much as they could be, and that's because the things are so damn picky about where they can be placed. Even a small undulation in terrain would see the icon go into the red category, and many recon players could be witnessed just running round in circles trying to find a parking spot for their beacon, while simultaneously being shot at by enemies. Not a great gameplay experience. DICE appears to have almost completely eliminated the need for that situation to arise again by fixing the deploy system for spawn beacons. The max distance at which you can place a beacon from you has been reduced, and that's to reduce the conflicts the beacon had with obstacles between the player and the potential location the beacon was going to be in. The detectable areas for where a beacon can be placed has been massively improved, and for safe measure, because electricity and water just really don't mix well, DICE has disabled the ability for spawn beacons to be placed underwater. I didn't even know you could do that, but apparently once this patch goes live, you won't be able to do it anymore. You'll now also spawn facing the beacon as well, rather than in the opposite direction. Right, moving away from those videos and onto some serious talk and a quick recap on something. Just before Christmas, the core community surrounding Battlefield 5 rose up to make their voices heard around the topic of TTK, time to kill. DICE implemented a game-wide test and chose to lengthen the time to kill, increasing it, meaning you'd need to use more bullets to kill enemies. This was backed up by evidence that DICE had, suggesting players were dying too fast. However, at the same time, they publicly admitted there were issues with damage being received correctly by players, resulting in an extremely fast TTD, time to death. Now, while TTK and TTD are linked, one part of the pair was bugged, and the community felt DICE needed to fix that before they went messing with a really fast, lethal time to kill that had been heavily advertised during the pre-launch campaign for Battlefield 5. DICE ended that test rather quickly and instead committed themselves to trying to solve the underlying issues with the netcode. Now, this patch, the February patch, is the first one where we'll see some of those changes, fixes, and improvements. First of all, the team is implementing a new system to ensure consistency between the TTK and the TTD, regardless of any potential network performance issues that might be occurring at the time. So this includes things like high latency, jitter, packet loss, and even more. This new system is going to make sure from the first bullet fired to the last that damage is properly spaced over time, avoiding bundling the damage into a single update. Now, this bundling is referred to as super bullets, and these were a part of the issue causing players to die extremely fast. The team is also increasing the amount of damage updates that can happen within a single packet. This will make sure that the damage being dealt is sent to the player as fast as possible and should help reduce the very delayed damage that you sometimes get from weapons like shotguns. DICE is also fixing an issue where damage on the client and on the server wouldn't be synced correctly and would lead to scenarios where the client would be unable to fully heal. I've noticed a few times where I'd be running around with 75 health and a spare pouch, apply the pouch, and the health value just wouldn't go up. Seems like DICE is fixing that problem, which is great. And linked to this as well, DICE has fixed another issue where the player's health would wrongly update due to incorrect high-frequency prioritization. Yeah, some big words there. This could sometimes happen if there were a lot of players in the same area. Sometimes players would try to heal themselves, but no health was applied when the health pouch was used. And another change by the team, previously players could still take damage from bullets for too long from a player that was recently killed, especially if that player had high latency. Now with this update, when the player is confirmed as killed on the server, damage from that player will be rejected. This change will not affect grenades, rockets, and other projectiles, however, so if you Kobe a grenade just before you get shot, that grenade will live on till it explodes, and sometimes you're going to get a kill with that grenade. Now, that's quite a lot of fixing done there, and some really good news for players who were dealing with getting shot at and killed really quickly because of a time-to-death bug. Now, of course, networking is arguably one of those places where issues will present themselves more often because you're dealing with latency, and that's an inherent part of connected play across the internet. It takes time to send info to the server, and then the server send a response back to you. Now, I'm assuming here that these fixes will address the major issues Battlefield 5 had, but that going forwards, the team will be monitoring that networking stuff and addressing any issues that appear later down the line. It's clear the game had some issues, so I would expect the team to monitor that moving forwards. But if this is going to fix the biggest problems that we've had so far, it's only going to improve the gameplay experience for Battlefield 5. Okay, moving on to some weapon and gadget changes now. There's some really important stuff in here that you should pay attention to, but first of all, I do have to announce that the efforts of Team Mountain Goat didn't go unnoticed by the DICE dev team, and their antics have spawned this very first change. When this update goes live, you're no longer going to be able to stack the sniper decoy gadgets on top of one another in order to reach those previously unreachable places on maps. They created this giant stairway to heaven, and you'd be able to get up and away from the gameplay into places that you really shouldn't have been able to get to. There's some video on the screen right now. It shows you what these adventurers have been up to. It's a pretty good meme in my opinion, but of course it's highly exploitable, and DICE have put a stop to it. RIP Team Mountain Goat, your efforts did not go unappreciated. It gave us a good laugh. But on to some more serious stuff. Firstly, shotguns using slug rounds have received a buff. The 2-hit kill range has been extended out to 30 meters, and the 1-shot headshot kill range has been extended to 50 meters. DICE felt slugs weren't that exciting to use, so this buff increases their desirability. Next, the Turner SMLE, the MAS 44, and the Gewehr 15, all assault class semi-auto rifles, have had their max damage reduced. The Turner and the MAS 44 are down to 40 damage from 45, and the Gewehr 15 is down to 36 damage from 40. The MAS 44 has had its one-shot, one-headshot kill range reduced to 30 meters, and for the Gewehr 1.5, that same scenario has been reduced to 10 meters. So a noticeable nerf to some of the semi-auto rifles here. That arguably brings them into line a little bit more when it comes to mid-range combat, and DICE said that when aiming at already damaged players, these weapons were just too powerful, which is the reason for this nerf. The unintended damage reduction on players using their bayonet charge has been removed. That brings it into line with the mechanic of how it performed in Battlefield 1, and the K7 has been somewhat nerfed in this patch. It was nerfed already once before, and now it's taking another one. I was of the opinion that it was still too easy to use. The initial vertical recoil has been increased to 0.7 and then reduces to 0.52 after the first 4 shots have been fired. Horizontal recoil has been increased to 0.48, and as a result, the recoil pattern itself has been drastically changed. DICE admitted the weapon was too controllable to use for its rate of fire. And lastly for today, let's talk about some more general changes and improvements. The new blip animation that plays behind the health pouch when the player has less than 100 health should no longer play if you're in a vehicle. Some Tides of War UI elements not showing up have been fixed, and the frequency of the Tides of War assignment trackers appearing on the left-hand side of the screen when you're playing has been increased. This should mean that if you add more to your completion a few times very quickly, you should get more frequent pop-ups to reflect that. The soldiers and vehicles in the front-end menus should no longer appear until all assets within the model are fully loaded. Platoon tags are now shown in the profile section menu, and the expected matchmaking times have been improved to better reflect how long you're going to have to wait to get into a match. Previously, some of the times they weren't correct. So, a fairly behind-the-scenes update, I'd say. The patch will also add all of the elements for Combined Arms, that's Battlefield 5's co-op mode, to launch soon, but since we don't have an official deploy date for this patch yet, we're going to have to wait for DICE's official word on that. And once we know, I'll let you guys know. This February patch polishes up Battlefield 5 even more, and I think it brings it extremely close to a state where the game should have launched at. And it puts the game in great shape leading up to the new location, coming in Chapter 3, of course that's Greece, and Firestorm launching in March as well. The netcode and TTD fixes should help smooth out gunplay and fights across the board, and since you're spending 90% of your time in the game holding a gun anyway, those fixes were sorely needed. But thanks very much for watching today. Let me know what you think of this update down below in the comments section. Make sure you subscribe to the channel with notifications switched on, that way you won't miss any of my future videos. And if you want to support me and my channel directly, then click the join button under this video and become a channel member. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.